Hello and welcome to this first episode of South Asia from the Ground. My name is Jasminder Khanna. South Asia is changing and the world is watching because every year millions and millions of South Asian students are looking beyond borders. They're carrying with them dreams, aspirations, and a hope of a brighter future. From the classrooms in Mumbai, Delhi, Dhaka, Colombo, Kathmandu to universities across the world, these journeys are way more than just education. These journeys are about ambitions, they're about opportunities, and they are about building a better tomorrow. South Asia, over the decades, has emerged one of the most dynamic student communities. It's a community of young population, rising aspiration, expanding opportunities, and a very, very deep belief in the power of education. And it is this that is transforming the global education landscape today. But to truly understand South Asia, we need to look beyond the numbers because it is the people in South Asia that drive this region. Their dreams, their choices, their challenges, and the changing forces that is influencing this market every minute. This campaign, South Asia from the Ground, takes us beyond statistics. It gives us the opportunity to understand South Asia from the ground through the voices of students, educators, counselors, institutions, and industry leaders. We uncover the stories shaping the future of this region. Because to understand where global education is headed, we must first understand where South Asia stands today. Once again, welcome to South Asia from the ground. And for my first episode, I could not have asked for a better guest. We have somebody who's a true pioneer of India's international education journey. Somebody who needs no introduction. Mr. Sushil Sukhwani, the founder and owner Edwise International. When the concept of studying abroad was still unfamiliar to many Indian students and families, it is him who envisioned a future where students could access genuine guidance and opportunities on the global stage. After his own international education experience in Australia, he founded Advise International in 1991, building one of India's most recognized overseas education organizations. And over the last 3.5 decades, he's witnessed and shaped the evolution of the study abroad landscape in India from the days of paper applications and limited information to today's highly competitive technology driven global education ecosystems. Today, we're not only going to explore his incredible journey, the early days of overseas education in India, but also how student aspirations have transformed over the years and what the future holds for Indian students who are looking to study abroad. Sushil sir, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you, Jaswinder. Thank you so much. And I'm privileged to be on your show and obviously really happy to be the, pole position for a long series that you have in mind.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I will jump on to the student behavior very, very, very shortly. But I just wanted to know some things that I have been very curious about. Who named it advice? What does advice mean?
When we had to get our first check, when we had to get some money in, we needed a company that could receive foreign exchange into India. And I had a parallel business which I was running along with my father, which was exporting merchandise overseas. We had a watch manufacturing business. So we were making watches at a company called Nivea International. So we had to get money from the university. We got paid in dollars and we had to use this name. So we continued to use this name. And in the year 96, we created a website. And we were the first people in this industry to create a website. And we called it niveainternational.com. In the year 2000, the company Nivea that makes cream in Germany sued us because they wanted the domain. They had the domain Nivea Germany, Nivea.com, and Nivea USA and Nivea India, but they didn't have Nivea International. So they sued us, and these cases were fought over the internet. So we won this case in Switzerland, which was a one judge bench. The thing went on to Canada, which was a 3-judge bench, and we won both. Then they came into India, and in Indian courts, they managed to get me a what they call an ex parte stay order. Like one day I was not told, and the next day I had to stop using it as per a government order. And I had 1 week to change the name of my company. So we sat down, our family, we came home, came together and brainstormed, and we said, what do we do? We advise people. So we said, okay, advise about education, and therefore it became advice. So it was a joint family decision made at home, but we got rebranded 10 years later almost.
Interesting. How old were you when you started this?
23 years and a half when I started it. It's not even 20, 23 and fresh, 23 years with 5 years experience.
So you always had the entrepreneur in you, you're just waiting for the platform.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first student?
My God, no. I definitely don't, but I have 3 people who I have counseled in the early 90s. So we started in 91 September. I have 3 students who I'm yet in touch with, who I counseled in the early 90s, who are very, very successful and in different parts of the world, and I am in touch with them yet. So it makes me feel great.
Beautiful. Have you ever counseled a student yourself?
So in the year 91, when we started, I counseled every single student, and right up till about 97, 6 years, every single student I counseled personally. Thereafter, I started corporatizing the business and having counselors who I trained.
Yeah.
Friends' children's, families, relatives' children's, people who I have to counsel, I will give them my inputs, and I will put someone from my team that will run the process. But I really yet enjoy counseling, and I'm passionate about it.
So you've always kept the counselor alive in you. Jumping on to today's topic, the changing student behavior from the 90s to 2026. A lot has changed. A lot has changed in South Asia. What are the biggest differences you see between the students in the 90s? Because you said you spent a lot of time counseling students for the first 6 years, and you still do that today. So what's the difference between those students in the 90s and a student in 2026, 35 years later?
In the 1990s, when a student met a counselor, someone like me, the student was ready to listen. And we were able to guide the student and give them inputs from our knowledge, our experience, and whatever information we could pull out. However, today's students are coming in so prepared, and I say armed with right information as well as wrong information. So they either come in with their laptop or their iPad. They have 12 tabs open. They have 3 WhatsApp groups that they want to show us as to what's happening. And they just want to show us another reel that they saw on Instagram, and they're saying, this is what they are saying. Now tell me which one to follow. So they come so confused and armed with information that we have to really follow more their direction as a start and then move it on. But earlier it was we led the conversations.
It's something that you mentioned in your previous answer. Students they walk in with their 12 tabs and WhatsApp groups and a social media reel as well. So I particularly want to talk about the influence of social media on the students' decision making. Has it just have a positive impact, a negative impact? Has the decision making got better? Has it got worse with the impact of social media?
When we talk about social media, it also goes beyond the traditional platforms. We might think of social media as maybe Instagram and maybe Facebook, but it's going beyond. We're even having other media like YouTube. We are having media like newscasters, and we have even the press. Everybody is commenting on study abroad. So there is a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion, and a lot of people are saying different things. So student is, I think, directed as well as misled, and you don't know who to follow. So it is creating a lot of confusion in the decision making of the students, and more so in the decision making of parents. Like this morning, I had a parent come in and say XYZ city is unsafe. And I said, yeah. And did that incident happen this morning or some other time and in some part of the city? And I said, you're living in a city that's as unsafe. So don't get, overly paranoid, but this is how it is. It's just creating a lot of anxiety and misinformation. I feel it's overdone.
So, who was more resilient? Who was more serious, more independent? The student then or student now?
The student then was more resilient because they were ready for more risk. The student today is definitely more independent because they're allowed to take the decisions themselves. More so, the parents are letting the students make some, moves on their own. So there is a change on that front.
And I think you touched upon a very, very important aspect here. The role of parents in the decision making, especially in a country like India or a region like South Asia, the parents, as we always say, are the biggest influencers or the biggest decision makers when it comes to studying abroad. Have you seen a change in the involvement of parents over the years? Has it grown? Has it shrunk?
Parents' involvement differs a bit by the nature of the program. One is undergrad versus postgrad. When you're looking at undergrad students going overseas, it's a lot about parents. The student might have aspirations and desire and knowledge, but the parents are more actively involved. The student is yet fairly young and immature, maybe. When we're talking about master's students, the parents are lesser involved. And however, they are the people who make a decision and fund the decision in most times. So the parent is very, very critical. But at the master's level, the parents allow the students creative freedom, or they allow the student to find the information themselves, and they kind of support it and let them take the lead. But at the undergrad, it's more the parent taking the lead.
Which generation do you think was the most difficult to counsel of all the generations that you've dealt with?
Yeah. So, the present generation is the one that gives us toughest challenge when it comes to counseling. We need to first, listen to them, clear what I call the wheat from the chaff. We need to filter out the noise, cut the clutter, listen, and then guide them, about how to proceed with their plans. So it is tough because there's a lot more cleaning up to be done before you really start speaking, but it is a tough time.
It's very, very similar to, when you're driving to learn or you're trying to get your driving license in the UK test.
Yeah, it is. We need to really, because they've been influenced by so many different people and so many different thoughts and taken input from so many people, apart from, the social net influencers, that we got to really dissect what they're looking for and then guide them carefully.
And what do you think students are chasing today? Is it really education or lifestyle?
Students are today chasing both education, yes, but they're also chasing better education and different education. It's not only a quality factor, sometimes it's a program not available. It's the same business program, but it's at a higher level. So they are chasing education, yes, but they're also chasing an experience and they're also chasing freedom. So they want to move out of home. They want to live independently, and freedom is a very big part of it. And then experience of living overseas, away from home, and which I think makes them learn a lot more than what you learn in the classroom. But students are chasing both.
Back then, when I was a representative representing a UK university, I remember, I think it was one of your fairs. A lot of students walked in with their parents, a busy fair. And I remember one student, he walked into the fair with his mom, and I saw him walking towards me. I asked the student, "What are you looking for?" And he said, "MBA." It was a challenge for me to kind of tell a 21-year-old that, that may not be the best course for you. Maybe you could look at something more specialized like an MSc management or something like finance, etc. But maybe you can park your MBA now for a few years and look at it maybe in the future, when you're getting higher up in the executive position. Do you see more of these cases today? Did you see more of these cases in the past? And how do you tackle these cases?
Students obviously will come in with a mindset that is given by their peers and also by stereotypes. A lot of it was presented in the movie Three Idiots, which is one of my favorite movies. That child has to be either a doctor, lawyer, or an engineer. To that, we've added this one more paradigm of MBA, which is a cliche program that everybody wants to do an MBA.
I went on to actually ask him, I said, why MBA? Because I didn't want to be disrespectful to that student. He's an aspirant to study abroad. Like, why MBA? And the answer that he gave me, the response from the student, and he looked at his mom and he said, because if I do an MBA, my mom thinks I'll get a better girl to marry. So his reason to do an MBA was rather a matrimonial purpose than anything to do with his career. So it
Yeah.
was funny, but then that indicates to you, exactly what you said, that stereotypical choices that sometimes students have, and it's difficult to navigate them in a different direction.
Yeah, but people have not also been engineered to think differently. Students are not guided to think beyond the usual. They've not even explored, and they didn't have as many options also for a variety of programs. And that's one of the reasons people look at going abroad. But you got to even explore their mind. That what do they want? You got to dig deep in. In fact, we run a program called an aptitude test at Advice, which is not typically found in an international counseling place. But as my wife is a psychiatrist, and we believe that students should choose what their personality, ability, and skills allow. But students are not ready to go in for that. They're not ready to look within. Overseas, that's a very default thing. You pick what you're good at, pick what your interest is. They don't do that often in India. And to go back on that matrimonial factor, I mean, the people in India might not get as amused as the audience overseas. They have that if you
Mm.
studied X program in X country, this is what the groom will get, or this is what the marriage funding will be. And it's sad, but it is true. This happens in our country.
What's one trait in today's student that really impresses you as compared to the students in the past?
These students are confident today, way more confident, and they're able to take independent decisions. Yes, the decisions are reinforced by their parents, but the parents allow them to be making the decision.
And if I had to flip my question, what's that one trait in today's student that worries you a little bit?
So students, because they are so confident, they're also impatient. They're not ready to wait through a process. They're not ready to go through the like, I now need to make an application and I need to wait for an offer and then do this and do that. And there's too much, like, we need it now. So if we're in the Instamart generation, everything has to be done right now.
Everything's coming home in minutes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's no app to order success, as I always tell students.
Quite true. So when you look at the same Instamart story, there's not enough planning or not even thinking, oh, I went to the store and I should have bought XYZ. But no, I can get it when I want it. And that's literally, flowing into even our counseling processes.
And and who asks more tougher questions? Is it the student or the parent? Who do you
So,
find more difficult to answer?
so historically, the parents used to ask more difficult questions. But again, adding on that the undergraduate parent asks more difficult questions. Today, the undergrad parent would yet ask more difficult questions. But today, the person going for a master's program, it's a student asking the more difficult questions.
Let's settle this debate once for all. Do you think Indian students are obsessed with PR?
But there are different types of students in India too. And I would segment them as to the student who wants to go just study and come back. And they have no aspiration for a part-time job. They have no aspiration for a post-study work. There is a segment like that. There's another segment of students that is who want to go there, have some experience, do some part-time work, do some post-study work, but yet come back. And then there is the third one who wants to go there, get a post-study work, and get a career job, and get a PR long term. So there are different segments, and these segments come from different parts of India and go to different parts of the world.
I agree with you there. What's your counselor's biggest challenge today?
The biggest challenge today is to get a student who's genuinely ready to listen to them, has not shopped around to many other places, whose mind is not cluttered, and to get a genuine student who they can guide. Because they do get students who are so confused and have gone to so many places. So they really want to get the right inquiry. Only then they can help them. It's a tough one.
And what's the biggest myth you think Indian students have had over the years when it comes to studying abroad?
So the biggest myth that students have is they think that once they made an application or they found the right institution, they will have everything smooth after that. They'll get an offer, to get the visa is easy, to get the funding is easy, to get the forex done, to get on the plane and go there, get a job, as well as study, and the program is easy. They think it's all going to be rosy. They don't know how much goes into creating a good education and a good experience. So they just feel it's just pick the right uni, make an application, and that's it.
And what's the worst advice students receive from social media influencers?
Most often, social media people say, don't study in a country. I yet have
Correct.
to find a social media post saying, study in a better country. The posts that say that are the ones by counselors and universities, study here. All the social media people want headlines, they want followers, they want controversy, and they say,
Mm.
don't study here. And then my biggest problem is the person saying don't study in XYZ location has actually studied in one country, one uni, and one program. And they think they're an authority to guide everybody out there on that channel. Maybe they have a few students on campus that they met or in and around. And they talk about don't study in a country, forget a program or a city. So I think they just go beyond their scope with too limited information, making too large statements.
And like you rightly said, it's negativity travels faster. So, again, I've not seen a lot of videos saying study here, but I've seen a lot of videos saying don't study here, which can get you a lot more engagement, a lot more likes. One of the most unrealistic expectation that you've ever heard from a student.
The student walks in and says, I want to go to the top 10 universities in the world. And then I said, okay, what about your grades? No, no, I'm just an average student, but I want to go to the top 10.
If you could ban one phrase from the study abroad seminars forever, what would it be?
The one phrase I would like to ban would be studying abroad is definitely better than studying in India. And that might be a little controversial to some of the listeners, but it's not as simple and it's not as plain truth. Yes, everybody has different needs, different expectations, different programs, and everything is not better abroad, and everything is not better in every location. So we shouldn't just be making these loud, big promises. We should be telling them, evaluate and decide.
And what's the biggest change you've seen in the study abroad industry in the last 35 years?
So earlier, the process of counseling was led by the counselor. And right now, the process of counseling is led by the student. Earlier, everybody listened to the teacher or the guru, but now we know that the customer is king. So
Hmm,
that's how it is.
interesting. A destination that you think is overrated.
I think that's Japan. Japan is the single one most overrated because they are looking for people, but they're not yet embracing people from all nationalities and all parts of the world. And they've not figured out their system as yet. So people think a lot of students are going to Japan, but more are going to study Japanese than actually studying other academic programs.
A destination that you think is underrated.
So I think France is underrated. A lot of the statistics that I've read historically that France has the fourth largest number of international students, but we don't see that from India because they get more students from the Francophone world. So it is a great place to study. And now France is feeling that they've got enough people from the Francophone world and they want people of other diversity. And you might have read that the Indian Prime Minister and the French Prime Minister have made
Yes.
special allowances for the Indian students to come there. And, Indian students are the only nationality that have certain perks when it comes to post study work and other things. So, but somehow the students have not figured that out yet. They're not picking it enough.
And what would you say was the industry's golden era? Was it then or was it now?
So the golden era was not so long ago. It was in the year 22 and 23. When I say
Hmm.
golden era, here I'm talking more from a abundance from a number of students going overseas, from a economic spend from India and enrollments on different campuses. So this was in 22-23, but it was because we had COVID, we had a few students who could not make it, and that backlog of 2 years suddenly came out in 22-23. There were more jobs available overseas in different destinations. So the students who went there were able to get part-time work easily. Universities were hungry because they had not had students for some time. They were giving admissions easily. And the governments were hungry too. What I say, they rolled out the red carpet and they just welcome everybody, increasing part-time work hours, increasing policies for stay back, just let everything out. So those are the best years. And I doubt we will get to those years again, but they were the best years.
Fingers crossed. Would you say the study abroad industry was better 20 years ago, or is it better now?
20 years ago, we didn't have the volume of students. So to say it's better from a volume perspective is untrue. The volume is better now. However, 20 years ago, values, ethics played a bigger role. And today, I find that thinning a lot. So, from a guiding of students, I'm not very happy the way the industry is going, but from a volume, it has definitely grown.
And you think Indian students have become more informed over the years or simply confused because of information overload?
So, Indian students have got confused because of information overload. But I want to take you back here to the era where I started. When I started in 1991, to get information about an institution or studying abroad was very difficult. Then we got books and manuals and guides that we used to refer to. And then came the era of internet. And in 96, when the internet was more prevalent, I thought, wow, now the internet's going to tell the student everything, and I'm not going to have any work to do as a counselor. But the information overload at the internet time created more confusion and made students need our help more. Now, coming back fast forward to 2026, we have AI creating that confusion, which is another aspect of the new age era of information and the internet. And students are more confused. So, some time ago, I was asked, will AI reduce the role of the counselor? And I said, yes and no, because as I've experienced before, the confusion is going to increase. Maybe the questions will be answered faster and maybe in different ways, but it is going to increase confusion. So once you put all these AIs together and all the versions together, the student will be confused and will yet need our help.
So we'll move on to a very, very special segment of the show. And yeah, there is a rule. The answer has to be just one word. My first question, one destination that you feel will surprise the world in the next 5 years.
It's in Europe.
Okay. And one destination that you feel may lose its popularity over the next 5 years.
I feel it will be the USA.
Okay. And one course you feel students are underestimating today.
Programs in healthcare and hospitality.
Yeah. And one skill you feel every international student must develop either before they go or when they're there.
Networking with internationals.
Yeah. Uh, I have a fill in the blanks next. AI will replace dash, but never replace dash.
So AI will replace skills but never replace people.
Well, the next big trend in global education is dash.
So the next big trend in overseas education is dynamically changing source markets and dynamically changing destination markets.
And by 2035, maybe another 9 years from now, studying abroad will be more about dash than dash.
So 35, studying abroad will be more about an experience than an education.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to go a little personal now because, this is also about you. Yes, we've been talking about students and the changing behavior, but I think the world also wants to know about you a lot more. At any point, did you ever feel this business is not going to survive?
So about this business, I've always been very, very positive, and because I know one thing very clearly, that India's population resource is a big asset. So I've always seen that there is some light at the end of the tunnel. There will be need to maneuver, and as I said a little bit earlier, different source markets, different destination markets, different processes, but I yet feel that the core factor of students seeking higher experience, higher education overseas will always remain. I always see light at the end of the tunnel.
It's very inspiring. And what is one single decision that changed your life?
Very easy, going abroad to study.
I resonate with that. What motivates you to continue even after 3.5 decades?
The success that you see students changing their lives, changing their careers really motivates you. You always hear these stories as you go around. It is an industry that we are really helping people grow, and I feel great about it.
And is there any one thing that people misunderstand about you?
So, because of my way I look, and maybe because of my age or seniority, people might think that I'm not approachable and I'm quite stiff. But I'm actually quite a easy to get along with person.
There's one last segment in the show which is called the human touch. And this is again from your years of experience. What's the best student success story you witnessed in all these years?
Okay. So this is a little personal experience. I was on a flight traveling overseas. The person sitting next to me asked me, "Sir, are you from Advice?" So I said, "Yes, I am from Advice." So he said, "Sir, thank you." I said, "Why?" He said, "Sir, you sent me abroad to study, and next to me is my wife. You sent her abroad to study, and there across the aisle is my brother and his wife. You send them out to study."
So it really made your flight, really made your day. My last question in this segment is, having been here 35 years, what legacy would you really like to leave behind for the generations to come?
I want future students to be guided ethically and correctly and passionately in a manner whereby they see success and keeping the commercial aspect aside.
And this is my last question, but this is from my heart.
Hmm.
I know you met thousands and thousands and thousands of students in this long, long, long journey of 35 years. And say if I showed you a student just for 5 minutes, would you predict whether they'll thrive or they'll struggle if they went abroad?
So, just hearing or speaking to a student for 5 minutes, I can clearly make out about their success because I can see or read their ambition, their conviction, and their confidence. And once you see that, I'm quite sure that they will succeed.
Lovely. And that is what we call experience. Thank you so much. I think this was very, very insightful. I could feel a lot of those responses coming straight from this that long, long experience, long journey, being in this very, very big industry today. And thank you for giving us this industry. Thank you for giving us the platform. Thank you for your support to me personally. Thank you so much for your time today, sir, and best wishes for the future.
Thank you so much, Jasminder, and I really enjoyed doing this show. And I hope it takes you to future success, as I'm very proud to know that you're one of our alumni. And I wish you all the best, and I wish this show success all through.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your wishes as always. Thank you.